Hey everybody, this is Ashley Bryant with Worth It Every Time. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety, basically figuring out what it is, what it looks like, and what we can do to kind of cope with and deal with it. I named this title today, Ewww Cooties, because remember when we were little and there was that game where one person had the cooties and they ran around trying to touch everyone else and you had to do the circle, circle, dot, dot, now I got my cootie shot thing, but you didn't want that person to touch you. If they touched you, then you got the cooties. And so today is kind of like we're playing like a global version of the cooties in which we don't know who has the COVID-19 virus because apparently some people can have symptoms and other people can't. And we don't stand in close contact with too many people because we're scared of what might happen if, we get into that particular bubble and then we're exposed to whatever they might have. And then we bring that home to, whoever. And we're all fearful of either catching it ourselves or giving it to, our family members or friends or, whatever the case is. And so, it's like causing a lot of anxiety. People are scared to leave their homes, scared to go to the grocery stores. Even though there are a lot of places that are opening back up right now, you don't see too many people, going just because they fear, running into someone having the COVID-19 virus, then catching, coronavirus and dying and everything else. And because of the sensationalism of this virus, it's everywhere on the news. All of our tablets, phones, TVs, it's everywhere. And so there's this constant, the death toll has risen to this, and this many cases have arose, and, this population is more susceptible than this population, but now that there's further research, this population is more susceptible to this population. And it's just, it's causing everyone to freak out and to become very fearful. And, I wanted to kind of, shed some light on what anxiety is and ways that, again, we can kind of deal with it. But the first thing that came to my mind was, 2 Timothy 1:7, which says that for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I think with what's going on today, the key in that verse is the sound mind. Because when we're panicked and we're anxious and we're worried and we're scared, it's really hard to make a really rational decision as far as what's best for us. And in those moments, we tend to make decisions that have lasting effects that we did not intend or that we did not expect because we weren't thinking very clearly. We didn't have that sound mind at the time of making that particular decision. So let's go ahead and get into it. Anxiety. The general definition is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something that has an uncertain outcome. The psychiatric definition is a nervous disorder that's characterized by a state of excessive uneasiness and apprehension, typically with compulsive behavior or panic attacks. So now we're going to kind of look into, now that we know what it is, well, what does it look like? Well, first let's figure out like how it starts. You get into a situation and you start to feel worried and anxious. Well, what's happening is, your brain is sending, signals to your body to go into a fight or flight response. So the hormones adrenaline and cortisol are starting to course through your body. Your muscles tense up. Blood flow is going to your muscles, getting ready for you to fight your way out or to take off and run, to save your life. As a result, your breathing might start to change. You start to have these sharp, shallow breaths, which, again, is for the purpose of taking in more oxygen to feed to your muscles so they have the energy to do what they need to do. However, it can feel as though, you're not getting enough breath. You become dizzy, lightheaded. You start to hyperventilate, and that's not a good thing. Possible fainting and things like that. So when you're in a situation, you feel nervous or whatnot, and you feel those things come on, recognize that those are possible signs of an anxiety or a panic attack. But also what's happening is with your heart starts to beat a lot faster, again, to get the blood to those muscles so that you can either fight or flight your way out of that situation. Your blood vessels constrict, which means they get smaller. So, the blood kind of slows, well, not necessarily slows, but it restricts the amount of blood that can go to your muscles. What can happen is if you are in a person who's constantly worried or you're constantly fearful of being, in social settings or just generally, you're always kind of worried and your body is always in this fight or flight mode, then that can take a really, negative effect on your heart. And you can end up with, heart disease and high blood pressure and things of that nature. It can take a toll on your health. Another way that it manifests is, in your digestive tract and your stomach and your intestines and things like that. Because all of your blood is going to your muscles in order to prepare you to, again, fight or flight, then, what's needed for your body to digest food is not there. So then you can experience nausea, diarrhea, feelings that your stomach is constantly churning and things like that. That's where, if you have a child, most children, younger children especially, they don't know the word anxious. You never hear kids say, "I'm anxious, mom," or, "I have anxiety." But what you will hear them say is, "My tummy hurts," and it usually will happen around when they have to do something that they're scared to do. I have a report that's due at school. I'm scared of speaking in front of other kids. "Oh, my tummy hurts, mom. Can I not go to school today?" Or, if they're experiencing bullying and there's anxiety about, whether or not I'm going to get picked on today or someone's going to hit me today or whatnot, you a lot of times, "My tummy hurts," or, "my head hurts," those type of things will manifest in the body as like a tummy ache. So if you have small children and they're saying their tummy hurts a lot, and it's not usually right after they've eaten something, it's usually when they're on their way to do something, then you might want to look into that as far as whether or not they're being anxious about something or there's something bothering them. With that being said, if you become a person that is constantly anxious and constantly fearful, then that can result in you having irritable bowel syndrome, which is, a nightmare in and of itself. So it's very important that if we are anxious or we feel fearful about anything, that we kind of get a control over that particular issue, and that way we don't run into long-term effect of those hormones constantly rampaging through our body, like adrenaline, cortisol, and things of that nature. But how do we do this? Well, I think the first thing is just knowledge, understanding, what it is that's making us anxious, how it's affecting our body, and things like that. I remember when I was pregnant, and I remember reading that the fear of the pain and, what's going to happen when you start to go into labor and all of that stuff, that kind of contributes a lot to the physical pain that a woman feels. But when you understand that with each contraction, your baby is being pushed down, and then that's causing the canal to open up and everything else, then I can visualize that. And I was able to have 2 of my 3 children naturally without any pain medication, because as much as it hurt, I understood the reason why it hurt, and I knew that it wouldn't last forever. So I was kind of able to remove some of that anxiety that would cause me to, tighten up my muscles and kind of fight the labor, which will make it harder and longer, and, all of those things. Now, keeping in mind that anxiety in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, so understanding that as well, it can help us to kind of understand that something might not be right, to be prepared, to move cautiously when we're in a certain situation. So you don't want to have absolutely no anxiety, but understanding when it is a problem, when it's, to the point where you can't leave your home, where you can't socialize with people because you are fearful of what might happen, if you're in a large setting. I know that I think it was in Vegas a couple of years ago when there was a concert, and then there was shooting into the crowd, and a few people died, and that could very well result in not only like PTSD, but anxiety with regards to being in large crowds, because you never know when shots are going to ring out, when you might be the person that's getting hit by a stray bullet, and things of that nature. So, just understanding what triggers the anxiety. Is it when I'm getting ready to go to work that I start to hyperventilate? Well, what's at work that's causing me to feel anxious? Or if a kid is going to school, well, what's happening at school that's causing the kid to be anxious? Identifying the reason why you are anxious and the triggers that correspond with that can help for us to kind of create a plan of sorts on how to deal with that. So, for instance, if I get anxious because there is, this person that, whenever I talk to them, they kind of make me feel bad about myself, and I just don't like being around that particular person, then I might try to avoid, being around that person. If, previous things have failed to alleviate that situation, then instead of me being anxious all the time about this person, I might, avoid that particular person or avoid having prolonged conversations with that person. It allows you the opportunity to make a game plan so that you can deal with, the anxiety and being able to cope with it. Anxiety, when there's a lot of it, it kind of makes you believe things that are not true. So you start to believe, that there definitely will be something that's going to happen to me that's bad, rather than saying, it's possible, or I could have a great day, or I can go to the grocery store and come home with my groceries and I can cook and have a great night, versus having an anxious mind that says as soon as I go in the grocery store there will be a gunman there, I will get shot. Those are completely different things, and we want to try to avoid sticking with the negative, only thinking about the negative things that could possibly happen. Open our minds up to the possibility that those negative things may not happen, and just kind of taking things as they come. Another way that we can kind of try to curb the anxiety is understanding what's happening with our body. Everyone experiences anxiety differently. Not everyone will have, the short breathing to the point where they become dizzy, but, my stomach might hurt whenever I get anxious, or my legs might, start to kind of tense up and, become in pain or whatnot whenever I have anxiety. But understanding what your body signs are, so that way you can recognize, okay, I'm starting to feel anxious, I need to do X, Y, and Z in order to be able to curb this anxiety or to calm myself down. And then understanding what coping skills work for you. So while one person might like to listen to music in order to calm themselves down when they feel anxious, another person might enjoy working out, or another person might enjoy writing their thoughts down and their emotions and analyzing, what's going on. Some people might paint, and if you think about it, a lot of the artists who are some of the best artists in the world, they use their, their experiences, and they put it into music, and that's cathartic. It helps them to relieve the anxiety that they're feeling and the depression and things of that nature. So those are just like a tidbit of things to look at, understanding again what anxiety is, what it looks like in your body, and then recognizing those signs and being able to figure out what coping skills work best for you, in order to help you to bring yourself back down to a point where the cortisol and the adrenaline isn't coursing through your body, and rampaging throughout your system. So, as always, like this video, comment below what are some things that, cause you to feel anxious or cause you to feel fearful. What are some things that you've tried that have worked and maybe haven't worked? Maybe some of the things that you have done might work for someone else. So, comment below on your current situation. Are you anxious about anything? What makes you anxious again? And, subscribe to this channel. And I look forward to hearing from you all. Until next time, love all. P.S. This is by no means a replacement for therapy. While it is informational and may help you with, dealing with some anxiety, if you are experiencing anxiety or depression or anything else to the extent that it's causing significant issues in your life or distress, whether it is in your school life, work life, romantic relationships, social relationships, or in any other area of life, please seek the help of a therapist who can help you to work through those issues and get you to the sound mind that you deserve. Have a good day.